Good afternoon, guys, and welcome back to PA Street Scene. My name is Derek. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also that notification bell to keep you up to date on my newest content. And let's get started. So last week I introduced you to my 2004 Volkswagen Golf R32 that I had recently purchased, and it's been about a week and I'm still in love with the car, but as I get more used to it and I drive it more, I'm noticing imperfections and flaws in it. Nothing major, but just stuff that bugs me as an owner and someone who has to see the car every day. So I wanted to deal with those today. I apologize for the wind noise. It's been crazy weather here this last probably 2 weeks in Pennsylvania as we get close to spring. We've been going back and forth between cold and hot and sunny and rainy, and no one knows what's going on. The only thing that's really stayed consistent is this damn wind. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, first thing I wanted to talk about is actually on the interior of the car. Not a big deal, just something that I keep noticing out of the corner of my eye every time I drive this car, and it's been bothering me. It's literally going to be probably the easiest thing to change on this car, and it's something that I think will help clean up the look a lot, and it's something I can do pretty quickly. So let me turn you around here so we can take a look at the dashboard of the car. The dash of the Mark IVs was always pretty clean, very geometric, but not a lot of knobs or craziness. And the R32, especially with this brushed aluminum trim and just kind of all the clean lines that you see in the car, like just these vents, it's a great feature just to have them kind of close off completely. But the thing that keeps bothering me about this is actually one of the assets of the dash, and that's this doubled-in CD player, MP3 player, touchscreen. Great add-on for the car. I'm glad that it was already in here. I think it just accentuates the clean lines of the dashboard. However, if you notice, because it's been in the car a while, the main control knob is pretty much a goner. Let me kind of zoom in here. It looks to have been chrome at some point, or at least like a mirror finish, and over time it has wore off considerably, so now it's all chipped up and white showing through it. It just looks a mess. So a really quick and easy solution for that is going to be just to spray it with some undercoating. Probably not the first choice people would make, but it's got a rubberized texture to it once you spray it out of an aerosol can that really mimics kind of the soft touch that the Mark IV and most Volkswagens actually are known for. It has like that rubbery texture. So I think it's going to really clean it up, just make it black and blend in. Nobody's going to be getting that close up on it, and it's going to make a big difference. Okay, so for this next step, super easy, not very expensive. A can of this undercoating from Rust-Oleum is about $4 at any auto parts store, whether it's AutoZone or Advanced or O'Reilly's, whatever you have in your neck of the woods. And pretty much everyone knows how to spray paint, or at least should. Simple enough. Shake up the can. This one's already pre-shook. And then just hold the trigger back a little bit. Make sure you're on a surface that you don't mind getting overspray on. This is just some ratty old cardboard, so it's kind of perfect. And then just cover your object. Alright, now we just leave that out here for about an hour or so and wait for it to dry. Okay guys, so while the control knob is drying, I think it's time to move on to the second project I want to tackle today, and it really has to do with the interior of the car as well. Once again, I want to apologize for the wind noise. It's been crazy here. Hopefully once it gets a little bit more consistent, we won't have to deal with it, and I can also get a better mic. But moving on to the interior, the next issue I want to tackle is the driver's side seat of this car. Now, the R32 came with these beautiful leather-wrapped Konig racing seats. They are heated. They are amazing. These high bolsters are like a hug from baby Jesus. They are amazing. However, just like the rest of the car, they are also 14 years old, and they're beginning to show signs of age, like this pop seam along the bottom, and also pop seams in the side bolster, most likely from people rubbing over them, climbing in and out of the car. Now, I did speak with a couple of upholstery shops this week, and while I'm sure their work is top-notch, their quotes and estimates that they were giving me are just out of my ballpark right now. So I am hoping to rewrap these seats at some point, but it's just not going to happen right now. So luckily for me, I was raised by a woman who taught me how to do things with what you have and to make them look right. She was doing life hacks before it was popular. So we are going to take a look at these issues with this seat and try to fix them in a way that makes it kind of hide the problems until we can get the budget to actually get them wrapped correctly. And I think the first one I'm going to start off with is the bottoms. So looking at this bottom pop seam, it appears to be about 10 inches long, give or take. And when it's just sitting by itself, it's not very noticeable until you sit on it or if someone looks at it from the right angle, but it's just enough to be irritating, and it's something we really should address. Now, if it was going to be fixed professionally, they would remove the entire seat from the car, strip all of the leather off of it, sew it from behind to create clean seams and a really professional look. However, that requires tools that I don't have, and honestly, a skill set that I don't have as well. So I think I've found a pretty good solution for the problem, and it only cost me a couple of dollars. I went off to our local craft store, it's called Joann Fabrics, and picked some of this faux leather up. It actually matches the texture and the color of the seat pretty well, considering I'm trying to match it to, 14 years of sun damage and fading. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to tuck this fake leather in behind, and I cut it before I started filming to the length that I thought it would need to be. So we're really just kind of creating a patch on the inside that just kind of hides it. It's still there if you know what you're looking for, but all in all, it looks great. Now, to make it a bit more permanent, obviously we're not going to just let it sit in there like it is. So I'm going to take some of this Gorilla Glue and actually line the inside of it. And of course there's a train now, but I'm actually going to do a small bead of Gorilla Glue along the inside to create somewhat of a seal and a barrier to keep it from moving. And then I'm just going to press down on it enough to give it a good tack. And then we're also going to do it on the other side. Now, like I said, this is not the professional method by any stretch, but for the time being, until I can get the money to get them professionally recovered, I think it's a pretty good solution. The fabric was actually on clearance. It cost me about $1.50, and I bought 6 inches by 3 feet of it, so I had way more than I needed. And then the Gorilla Glue is, $4 or $5. And then scissors I already had, so that wasn't additional. So we're going to let that dry a bit, and when we come back, it should be pretty well where it needs to be. We just need to let it kind of dry a bit. So let's leave the seat alone. We'll come back to these side bolsters in a little bit, but let's move on to some issues in the exterior of the car. It's very obvious that something is missing from the front. It's one of the first things you see when it rolls up, and it kind of looks to me like it's missing a tooth. Of course, I'm talking about the lower bumper grille inserts. The previous owner of this car lived in Maryland, where a front license plate is required, so he needed to utilize a bracket from behind the bumper so as not to put holes in it, which I'm very grateful for. However, with that bracket in place, he couldn't have the grill in, so like we all do, he put it somewhere for safekeeping, and it disappeared. He has contacted me and let me know that he will send it to me if he finds it. However, I'm impatient. I've had the car for 2 weeks, and I really feel like it makes it look cheap not having it. So I was able to source one off of eBay, which I'm pretty excited about. It is OEM, so it should just pop right in and really make the car seem complete. So if I'm correct, it should just slide right into these holes in the bumper. And yeah, that's pretty much all it took. But as you can see, it really cleans it up and makes it look finished. Unfortunately, the one that I just put in is a bit newer looking than the other two, so the black is a bit darker. Nothing that can't be fixed with either some spray paint later or some black restore from like Mother's or Meguiar's. But for now, I think that was a really quick solution to that problem, and luckily it wasn't very expensive. I think it cost me about $35 for the replacement insert, and that included shipping and handling. Moving on to the rear of this very, very dirty car is the Volkswagen logo in the center of the hatch. This one is definitely showing signs of age. It has seen better days. The faux plastic chrome on it has began to chip, and it is kind of gouged around the edges, most likely from people leaning against it or just general age and rock chips and things like that. So it's a very simple solution to fix it. It's basically just held on with double-sided 3M tape, which we're going to pop off with this putty knife. It's plastic, so it's not going to scratch the paint or hurt it. You can get it in any hardware store or Walmart, you know, any place like that that sells tools. It's usually in with the spackling supplies. So we're going to pop it off. Any residue that's left over, we're going to get off with some of this adhesive remover, Goo Gone, Goof Off, whatever you're using, it's all the same. Paper towels to get as much of that off as possible afterwards, and then alcohol wipes to prep the surface to get all the oil from the adhesive remover before installing this new black on black logo that I purchased from eBay for about 20 bucks shipped. I like the look of it, and I actually have some plans for changing the color of this car soon, so stay tuned for that. And it's going to make this pop a lot more than it will for now. But right now it's just going to be stealthy, and I think it's going to look a lot cleaner. So let's get started. We'll do it fast forward. After a little bit of wrestling with that, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So let's move on to our next project. We are finally on to the last project of the day before we head down to Reading for Cars of the Night. It is going to be to try and stitch up this side bolster and also this seam up here to kind of close it up. Obviously it's not going to be professional. If you get close up on it, you're going to be able to see it, but I'm going to simply be using a needle and some upholstery thread, which is a bit more heavy duty, and I'm also going to be doubling it up, trying to use these existing holes that are already here to try and make it look as clean as possible. Okay guys, so last update on the project before we head out to Reading is that the seat is not getting done. I don't know if I was going too fast and not taking my time, or if the needle I had selected was wrong. I've been sewing for years, but leather is not something that I'm used to. I just assumed it was going to be like all the others, but for whatever reason I broke my needle. Luckily I didn't hurt myself in the process, which is always great, but it kind of sucks not to be able to get it done before heading out to this meet tonight, but it is what it is at this point. It's getting dark, I need to charge the camera, and we need to get heading out. On a side note though, the undercoating that I had sprayed on that controller button for the head unit, not the result I expected. It actually ended up crumbling off of the button. It basically turned into like a powdery dust, and it took all of the remaining chrome and whatever primer or base layer they were using for that with it, leaving just a bare button. It didn't hurt the plastic at all, no deforming the plastic or anything like that. But yeah, it's completely white now. So I think what I should have done in the first place, and what I'm going to end up doing tomorrow, is going to the hardware store, getting a can of Krylon Fusion plastic bonding paint, and just painting it satin black and calling it a day. It's not that big of a deal. It's just something that bothers me when I look at it, but it's an easy fix, and what's a project car without a couple learning experiences? So I'm excited to head down to Reading. This is my first Cars of the Night, and I think it's going to be awesome. So let's get going. We are almost to Cars of the Night. It starts at about 9 o'clock. It is about 1/4 right now. We just stopped at the car wash and got it all cleaned up. So I'm excited to see what this meet is all about. There's supposed to be a police presence, which makes me feel like it's going to be a bit more official. But there seemed to be some confusion about that in the group chat online. So we will see what happens, and hopefully it's some fun. And the hour and 15 minutes I spent driving there is not a waste of time. Alright guys, well, as quickly as it started, it is over. Cops showed up about an hour in. I got there about 15 minutes into it, so I got about 45 minutes. Unfortunately, I forgot the battery for my good camera, my DSLR. Luckily, I was able to get a little bit of footage with the GoPro before the cops came. So, yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. I will come back if they have another, and I'm sure they will. It's funny now to watch all the people who just have no idea where to go. There was easily 200 cars, and they all had to leave at once. It was just like everything you've ever thought it would be. The scramble is real, and it was kind of fascinating to watch. So, yeah, I'm going to head back to my house and get some rest. Maybe do some more car stuff later. And I will see you guys next time.